All right, welcome everyone. I'm Don Tucker. I'm your host today. I'm head of Cisco's collaboration, corporate development, and venture investments at Cisco. And I'm really excited about the panel we've got today. We're going to discuss how unified data, omnichannel, and customer-centric platforms help contact center executives deliver better customer and agent outcomes. We're going to talk about the role of CDP, CJP, and AI in defining those intelligent customer engagements. Now, that's a lot of acronyms to throw at you, so if you may hear them a couple times. So CDP is Customer Data Platform, CJP is Customer Journey Platform, and I think I don't need to mention AI. Everyone knows what that is by now. I'm really excited about our panel today. So we've got a set of a couple of our portfolio companies joining us, as well as one of our own. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but one thing you should know about this group is they are all experienced, successful entrepreneurs having built multiple businesses with successful outcomes and successful exits. So we're really excited to back these guys. We're excited to have them here today. So to the panel, Omar, Brad, and Tasso, I'm going to have you each introduce yourselves, and so everybody knows what you are and what you do. And we'll start with Omar as our own Cisco zone here. So Omar, over to you for an introduction.
Hi, folks. Glad to be here. My name is Omar Tawakol. A year ago, I would have been on the panel like Tasso and Brad as a portfolio company. I was running a company called Voicea that was acquired back in September of last year. We built essentially the capability that went into the WebEx assistant to do action items and transcriptions and so on. But the interesting thing is, before that, I established a company that built, kind of started out in the DMP business before there were CDPs. So when I came to Cisco and they said, hey, we're looking at this CDP company, ActionIQ, I got, of course, quite excited. And now I run the contact center business. Sorry, that was a long intro.
No, that's perfect. And yeah, you've got a very unique background here, Omar, that you bring to the table, both from being an entrepreneur on the outside with relevant experience to running our contact center business today. Brad, I'll turn it over to you next. You can talk about, give a little background on yourself as well as Customer.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Brad Birnbaum, CEO of Customer. Similar to my peers, I've been in the contact center space for the last 20 years, and we've had a couple of great companies along the way. Most recently, co-founded Assistly, which was SaaS-based SMB customer support. Founded that in 2009, and we ultimately sold out to Salesforce in 2011, and that became Desk.com, their SMB offering. And a lot of my time at Salesforce became the inspiration, frankly, for what we're doing here at Customer. So Customer's a modern customer service-focused CRM platform, leverages omnichannel, machine learning, RPA-like business process automations to deliver incredible experiences. And we're about 5 years old now, and it's been a really fun journey. And again, I want to thank the Cisco team for inviting me today as well. Really looking forward to a fun interactive session today.
Great, thank you so much, Brad. And for everyone watching, it's Customer with a K, as you can see there on Brad's logo above his head. So sometimes we have a fun time talking about customer success with Customer. It gets quite the mouthful, so we'll try to keep those clear today as we talk. And then finally, we have Tasso. Tasso, why don't you give a similar background on yourself and ActionIQ?
Great. Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here. So my name is Tasso Argyros. I'm the founder and CEO of ActionIQ. My background is in data. Before ActionIQ, I had a database company. We did a lot of customer data analytics, sold to large enterprises, and I was acquired by Teradata. And Aster was great in terms of putting all the data in one system, but my passion with ActionIQ is in connecting all the customer data together, but also providing direct access to the business for the data to enable truly omnichannel, omnipotent customer experiences. So connecting all the customer data together, putting an interface on top of it so that the business can use it, and then pushing that data and the experiences to products like Customer and others to activate on the different channels.
Great, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to have you all here today. So let's kick off by talking through some of the most pressing challenges that really are hitting customer engagement models today. Omar, do you want to start off with your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you step back and think about your interaction with your favorite retail companies like a Nordstrom or, you know, your favorite bank, everything's changed in the last few months. You really have, you know, narrowed down the world to two types of interactions. And because you're not doing as much as the physical world interactions with your bank or retailer, you're essentially just doing digital commerce. Or if you have to interact with them, you're doing what would have been called, you know, customer service, contact center, call center. And so therefore the brand is experienced by the consumer mainly in just those two ways. And so that puts a different lens. There's been this motion over the past few years to move contact centers and CX into one thing, right? So your contact centers are not just thinking about problem solving, they're thinking about the total journey and experience of customers. That's been a move that's been happening at slow motion. Then COVID hit, and that just massively accelerated. So now people are really trying to get the tools in place to make sure that they can see the interaction in the contact center as part of a greater journey, that they can make sure it's a smooth interaction, and they really are aware of the fact that this is how you perceive your brand. And it needs a lot of fixing. If you think about your experiences with contact centers, you're just remembering hold time, repeating yourself, agent, you know, problems like that that aren't conducive to a great brand. So people are really diving in now to solve these kinds of experiences. And what Brad and Tasso have are a lot of perspective on how you can solve it faster.
Yeah, no, I've never had an experience like that, Omar. We can laugh about that because it is. Everybody's had those types of experiences with customer contact centers and customer engagement, and it's becoming so true that you know, what used to be the back door to these brands is now becoming the front door more and more, and really, you know, the showcase of that brand. Brad, I'm going to ask you the same question. So, in terms of pressing challenges hitting customer engagement models, what do you see?
Oh man, I have a long list of notes I prepared for this, but you know, I mean, there's the standard one that everybody's bumping into, which is just the incredibly rapid rate of digital transformation that's occurring as a result of the pandemic. Seen the charts, we've all seen how we're all conducting commerce nowadays. But the rate of digital transformation moving is at lightning speed compared to where it was, frankly, 6 months ago. It's forcing businesses to rethink everything around them. So, you know, we're seeing that there's, you know, I use the word ancient tooling, but there's just a lot of really old things out there that aren't geared up for the new world we're in, right? The world has changed so fast, right? Faster than anybody could have imagined. And people are using things that aren't really prepared for that. Survival and adjustment at warp speed, right? Like, again, everything has changed so much so fast that how do you not only survive, because some companies are focused on that, but some are really truly flourishing. And you know, we've got a whole bunch of our customers that we see that are truly flourishing in this new time. And even that rapid growth is also hard and challenging for them. How are they able to adjust, right? So we've got the remote distributed workforce that are a huge part of the contact centers, causing a lot of challenges, right? How do you ramp up fast? There's certain BPOs or call centers or locations of call centers that are no longer allowed at the moment, right? Due to, I've even heard examples of some of our customers where physical security is a concern in certain countries where they can't actually do business there right now, right? So things are really, really different. And the last one is just simply sky high expectations, right? Zappos and Amazon, you know, they set the bar really high for us over the last decade or so, and everybody expects that. And I'm not going to say this is a result of the pandemic. This has just been happening over time. But as the push to digital transformation, as the push to doing more online e-commerce, people expect that same level of service. They expect that same level of commitment. They expect that same relationship with the business. And you know, that's just something that I think a lot of companies are quickly trying to figure out. How do we behave like that, right? And how do we make those rich experiences for our customers?
Yeah, it's to stay competitive, you have to in this day and age with those examples that you mentioned. Tasso, same question over to you. What are you seeing right now as the pressing challenges?
Yeah, I think I mean, Omar and Brad covered a lot of it. I guess what I would add is that we also see digital being a priority, right? So people are building a lot of digital capabilities very quickly, which is the right thing to do. But the challenge I see is that digital becomes just another silo right now, right? Especially because people are trying to build it so fast, it's not really integrated into everything else that's going on. Now, if you think about the call center, is that digital or not? I think of it as digital, actually, right? Because it worked in the pandemic, right? It's voice being digitally transferred. But how do you, but there's a lot of new capabilities that are like pure digital. How do you keep those connected to the call center? And then I think start to get back to normal. People start to engage physically again. How do you unify everything? And when I say unify everything, I mean both from the data perspective, so that you can have a full view of the journey, but also from an experiences perspective to keep everything aligned. So, the one thing I would add is, yes, all this acceleration is great in many ways, right? Because it would anyways happen. But on the other hand, I don't think people are thinking, how do we build digital as an integrated component of the customer experience? It's more like, let's build digital because our business is at risk, and let's think about this later. So very, very quickly, I think people will move from, okay, we build a bunch of digital. Now, let's think about the customer. Let's put the customer at the center. What did we that just do, and what does it mean? And I think it's going to be the challenge right around the corner.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of the value starts with that data, and it's got to be customer centric, right? Not just how do we build digital channels. As you guys have mentioned, and Brad, you mentioned some shining examples of companies that are focused on CX as a strategic priority, and in a lot of ways, it's becoming a way that you differentiate your brand, right? Is exceptional levels of customer experience. But yet, we laughed up front and joked about having those poor experiences, right? When you call in and you have to tell your story multiple times. They have no idea if you're their best customer or their worst customer and how to treat you, or even your past history. But could you, maybe Brad, I'll start with you, give some, highlight some examples of a customer-centric culture, especially in this new normal. And do you see these centers creating new standards of operating procedures?
I do. So I'll actually make a bold prediction. I do think traditional support ticketing systems are not going to survive much longer, right? I think the world is transforming. So as an example, as we have this conversation, as Don, as you and I have gotten to know each other over the last several years, we built a relationship, right? We learn tidbits of data about each other every single time we talk. Some direct, some indirect, right? And the way that we see businesses engaging and interacting with their customers is no different, right? So we believe this fundamental shift needs to occur where companies treat their customers like people and not tickets, right? And that's been our mantra for the last 5 years, and it's really working. It's how we built actually our product at its core. And in doing that, it's really important to understand your customer, right? So you understand everything about them to ensure that they have those rich, robust experiences. You don't look at the little slice of them where like the one little incident they got right now. Nah, that's a piece of that customer, right? You need a full relationship to understand every prior experience. You understand purchases they made. You may need to realize, man, the last 4 times they've ordered something from us, it's been late every time in delivery, right? Like that information is critical to establishing a rich relationship, a real relationship, the kind that we do, companies aspire to when they want to have those optimal experiences. So we do see companies really taking advantage of that. Yes, admittedly, they're doing it with my product, but we do see companies really moving that needle and making that paradoxical shift. And it works, right? Higher levels of engagement, higher levels of customer satisfaction. We even see higher levels of customer service agent satisfaction. And these are all things that are going to drive that, right? The other thing that I would tell you, the other example I'll use is, in today's day and age, there's so many ways we communicate with one another, right? There's so many opportunities to interface. And back 20 years ago, it was like the phone and maybe web chat and sometimes people, but now there's so many ways. There's a litany of ways we can all communicate. And you want to allow people to communicate with you in their favorite channel and their preferred channel, the preferred channel for what they're servicing on. But you want to be able to do it in an omnichannel fashion. You want to be able to do it in a way where you can engage across multiple channels in a single threaded conversation, and just, while you're on the phone with somebody, be able to text them, go check this out at the same time. Simple things go a long way. And, we do see those behaviors, those ways of working, transforming the relationship between customers and companies, and ultimately wowing them, right? To use that word, right? Really impressive, driving those behaviors.
Could I riff on just one thing that Brad said really quick? Brad,
Please.
that last point you made, this I call it kind of the age channel flip. This thing that's happening now is amazing. If you take people 65 years and older, 80% of the communication preferences are phone and email. If you take people 15 years and under, 90% of their communications do not include phone and email. It's basically text messaging, social, and video. That flip is so extreme. It's a wave that's going to wash through all communications and all company interactions. And so when you talk about omnichannel, it's not just this this thing that, at some point we have to get ready for. Companies like you are just like unbelievable timing to help companies deal with this tsunami that's about to hit them. And then, just to pass over back to you, Tasso, the problem when the tsunami hits them is they treat me like 5 different customers if they don't know that my email is connected to this phone, is connected to this social handle.
Exactly.
So it's, not only do you have to be able to handle those channels, you have to actually understand the identity across it. So sorry to interrupt.
No, this is a fantastic point, Omar. And actually, I think this presents some huge opportunities, right? So back to Donald's question, I think a lot of people that consider that, this was like a track hit, companies and call centers, right? So a lot of things to figure out, right? I think Brad mentioned before, like how do you get people remote? How do you manage them? How do you ramp them up? I think as people move out of crisis mode and they look what happened, the chances are that by the time someone connects with a call center or over text, over phone, whatnot, they probably just came through another digital channel. Like we're talking about seconds or minutes ago, right? They tried to figure out something they couldn't, they went on the call center. So having that context and that history right there in real time in a way that's easy to digest so that the customer doesn't have to repeat everything they just did, right, for the past hour. Amazing opportunity, right? Why is that? Is that new? It's not really new, but the percentage of people that are talking to an agent right after they engage with the digital channel is going way up, right? Just because of where we are with COVID and the acceleration of digital transformation. So if you can connect the identities, and then you can get not just the profile data of customer, but the event data of customer, and you can move it from every digital channel to and put it in the agent hand in a way that is to digest. Very low hanging fruit, huge opportunity, right? Still not done broadly enough.
No, I absolutely agree. As a contact center connoisseur, there's too many times. Certainly, we've all called up and see that's not happening today. But I think the best of breed are starting to awaken to this, and they can certainly utilize, companies like Kustomer and CDPs like ActionIQ to help drive that home. Let's switch to another topic that I know is near and dear, especially to you, Omar, having done an AI company in Voicea, which you mentioned we acquired up front, and thinking about how AI applies within customer service. And one of the things where AI comes in the contact center and customer service is really allowing and enabling self-service options. So everybody's heard hype around chatbots, for example, and being able to not have to interact with a real person. And in some ways, consumers do prefer that a lot of times. It's I want to be able to help myself and find that answer and not actually have to talk to a person. And it's probably in line with those statistics you were sharing around the age group, right? The younger age group wants to just get in and get an answer, and AI can really be helpful for that. So love to see what you're observing, from AI in contact centers. And then also, AI is also helping improve the agent productivity and their experience, right? I think there's nothing that burns agents out more than having to do their, 50th password reset of the day, right? And they would much rather have those be handled by AI. So love to kind of get your thoughts, Omar, on what you see for AI in the contact center. And then Brad, we'll turn to you after. I know you've recently made an acquisition in the AI space, but Omar, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. There's two classes of problems AI helps with. The first one, which you were calling automation, I essentially would like to look at that as a flattening the curve problem. So I'll give you an example. There was a state government we were working with that all of a sudden in April had to deal with 6.5 million calls coming in, dealing with issues related to the pandemic. And so the whole thing behind the pandemic has always been about flattening that curve so that your hospital capacity keep up with your patients. You have the exact same problem in contact centers, which is all this demand that you have to deal with and not enough humans to process those demands quickly without keeping people on massive hold times and frustrating the heck out of them. And so then you build these voice bots. So we worked with them, Google's included in the project, and we were able to get it so that a virtual voice bot could handle up to 200,000 calls a day and be able to do this and minimize the deflection before you hand it off to a human. And we've seen other case studies on this, like working with a carrier to allow them to have people pay their bills and reload on their SIM card. Or with travel companies, so that you could actually go through some ports of your booking without interaction with someone and still have 0% transfer to agents, and reduce your load on IVR, forcing people to click around. So there's a lot of use cases there that basically say, get the easy problems, the repeatable, like password reset, exactly what you're saying. That's one of the use cases. Get those easy things automated and repeatable and never transfer to human. Now, what happens is what remains are the more richer problems that you actually don't want to talk to a bot about. Those are the ones where you're 3 seconds in, you're like agent, because this is too complex for the bot. And so those are the kinds of problems you don't want to force on a bot, and you want to free up human time to get to those. And then you want to get the AI listening to the conversation, and the AI is going to match a case that was solved somewhere else by another agent and realize how it was solved, and very quickly nudge this agent and say, hey, by the way, this customer's traveling to Spain. What they want is a data plan that works in Spain. Here it is. That way, the agent on the call, you solve several problems. One, they don't have to put you on hold and research it. The agent has put it up, the AI bot has put it up and said, hey, offer this. Two, if that agent is early in their training history, which by the way is a large portion of all contact centers because there's churn, then you're able to speed up that training by helping them along with answers. So we reduce the cognitive burden for the agent. We give them a better experience. They get trained faster. They solve the customer problem faster. The whole time goes down. The cost to the contact center goes down. I have never seen a ROI case for AI as strong as the case I see here in the contact center. And then the last thing I'll say is when the call's done, people spend 4 or 5 minutes on each call doing wrap up. AI can come in, do the wrap up automatically for them, offer coaching to the supervisor. So you get the full cycle of from the call comes in, automate it, help the agent close it faster, wrap it up faster, coach them faster. All of that's aided by AI.
Yeah, and that sounds like a much different world than I think when early on you heard about chatbots and AI coming into the contact center and displacing jobs. This really sounds like a win-win. It's a win-win for customers, it's a win-win for agents, and it's a win-win for brands in many ways when it works right. Brad, over to you. As I mentioned, you've recently done a AI acquisition, but love your take on AI in the space, and if you see the world in the same way that Omar does, or you see any other things that you'd like to call out.
No, definitely, and thanks, Alan. Yeah, we definitely see the world the same way as Omar. Self-service has always been on the rise and has been improving pretty consistently over the past years. But the need for self-service has skyrocketed in the last 6 months since the pandemic began. Because for those companies that are doing quite well, they're just not able to staff up at the rate they require, right? Like Omar mentioned, a lot of new agents, they got to ramp and train, but you got to actually be able to even find these people and get them hired and ramped and trained. So self-service is even more critical now in order to handle the unplanned growth of many businesses, right? And their ability to still service their customers. Secondly, customers demand immediate resolution and satisfaction nowadays, right? We live in that world where everything, instant gratification, right? Everybody expects everything. Nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants to wait on hold. Nobody wants to wait till you open your doors. Nobody wants to wait. So again, self-service is there. And the reason I say self-service is because you can make self-service incredible with AI and ML, right? You can do it with deflection, which is something we do really well. You could do it with enhanced deflection, which is really a chatbot, a machine learning chatbot. And you mentioned we acquired a company. We recently launched CustomerIQ last April, which is our entire intelligence platform, all around machine learning and artificial intelligence across the entire CRM platform that we offer. And it's a whole bunch of different things, right? It enables omnichannel deflection. It's a machine learning based chatbot, enhancements to sentiment analysis. We use it for intelligent routing, which is very important, right? Machine learning routing. I think there's dozens more examples of ways that we're able to use CustomerIQ to really create those rich experiences. But what you get out of that is you get customers getting resolutions faster, often by self-service, if not by getting routed to the right agent more quickly. And then agents have the benefit of using machine learning and artificial intelligence to automate routine and mundane tasks, right? Using like RPA, like business process automation, to actually, so you have to return the shirt. Might need to get an RMA number from one system and check your inventory system, see if you've got it in another system. And if so, go place that order in a third system. If not, go to suggestion engine, find all those things. So you can automate that stuff. Some really cool RPA-like stuff that we do. And then on top of that, not only you're making customers happier, but you're actually making agents happier because you're making their jobs less tedious and more enjoyable, right? You're doing some of the annoying stuff for them, right? The frustrating. They're able to focus on what's important, which is making your customers happy and delivering those amazing sports programs. So across the board, AI and ML, it's a win-win. It's helping everybody, and the technology is really advancing. We're huge believers in it, and we're investing heavily in it, and we're deploying it all through our platform.
Great. Thank you so much, Brad. And as we kind of move along here, I'll encourage people to, if you do have Q&A questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A box there, and we'll try to leave some time at the end as well. I'm sure there's definitely some AI questions out there, so feel free to lob those in, and we'll come back to them. Tasso, I'm going to turn back to you. We talked early on about really needing to know kind of that 360-degree view of the customer. And when someone calls into the contact center, it's frustrating when they have no idea about you, right? What's your history? Are you a good customer? Are you a bad customer? What kind of marketing offers have you received? Maybe what that customer sentiment is, and really being able to be proactive about that. And leading contact centers have indicated that integrated platforms and data analytics are important to really building insights into this customer journey. What does the intelligent customer experience mean for you, and how would your platform be deployed within a contact center to depict a customer journey?
Okay. So I was on mute there. The most famous word of 2020, you're on mute. Yeah, so I think the intelligent customer experience, there's in my mind, there's three components. One is to have the integrated customer journey data. Now, if you think about that for 1 second, there's a few different levels when you think about integrated customer data. One is integrated identities, right? That when someone calls in, that it's the same person you had in your store, you had on the website. This is the identity matching, identity connection. That's kind of the foundation. On top of that, you can start building integrated profiles, meaning, hey, this is a high value customer, low value customer, price conscious customer. That has to come together. That's the integrated profiles. But there's another level, which is the integrated events, which means not only do I know this is the same person, not only do I know the same attributes of that person, but I also know that they went on my website and they looked at X, or I know that, we had a chat conversation, or we had, some sort of another voice conversation, and I have all the data in one place. So identities, profiles, events, that's the integrated data holistically. So that's one of the key things that we do at ActionIQ, right, is to integrate the identities, integrate the profiles, but then bring events together. which can be billions, right? In aggregate, we're talking about huge data sets, and potentially feed that into the call center and the different call center applications. But then the other thing is that, I don't think anybody can continue to think of the call center as the world, right? The call center is one touch point, and there's different touch points within the call center, obviously, right? You're talking about voice, you're talking about text and chat. But then the question is, how do you get that data into the call center? But then how is the call center part of the broader touch point customer journey? And this is where we talk about integrated and automated experiences, meaning sometimes it's the right thing for a customer to engage with a call center. Sometimes you may want marketing to engage. Sometimes you don't want marketing to engage while the call center is dealing with an issue, right, with a certain part of the journey. So how do you prioritize the interactions, right? Not just being passive about how the customer interacts with you, but how do you prioritize your interactions with the customer? Again, within the call center, but also across everything, right? You think about marketing, you think about servicing, you think about, the stores or the physical interactions. There's a prioritization. So there's integrated data, there's integrated and automated experiences. And then the final thing is you need to be able to go from data to action in the same platform, right? So one of the limitations of the traditional way of separating the database and BI and then tools like call center tools is that if the analytics team gets an insight through the BI, but then they have to walk over to a different building or get into a different WebEx call, I guess these days, to communicate with the person that can take action, that's not going to happen, or it's going to happen 1% of the time. You need the person that's responsible for taking the action to have all the access to the insights, and in our case, we believe all the access to the activations as well. So you get data, insight, activations all in one place. You provide it to the person that can actually have the authority to drive the action. That's where magic happens. So integrated data, integrated automated experiences, and then accessible and actionable analytics. These are the three components of the customer intelligence and customer experience as we think of it.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is easy to take for granted that you've brought up now a couple of times is that identity, and Omar mentioned as well. It can be identity on the front end of, hey, I may one time reach out on on a one channel, a WeChat or a Facebook Messenger. Another time I'm on a phone call, and those identities don't match up. If you're just you have one single common identity, or you have one single identity for each of those. And then on the other side, you have all these data systems behind that that may have different customer IDs as well, depending on what that system is. And so bringing all that complexity together is really a complex challenge. And I know we have that challenge at Cisco as well, even in our own data. So certainly it's challenging to solve. And then the other thing you brought up, I think, is really interesting as well, is these silos that have existed historically can't continue to operate like silos, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales or customer success or customer support. They have to understand what's going on to really do their job in unison, right? You don't want to send a marketing, blast someone, hey, buy our product, when maybe they have a ticket in on the ticketing side and they're upset about something. That marketing offer is not going to be well received, right? Or asking for a review. So all those things need to come together, and that's really what ActionIQ is focused on helping deliver. Brad, I'm going to turn to you as well on this question of the intelligent customer experience. I know you're focused on many of these same issues and problems, and love to get your perspective on it. Sure. No,
we are both solving somewhat similar problems, potentially in different ways, but very much similar problems. So for us, in order to have that intelligent customer experience or that intelligent customer journey, I think you need to know about your customer, right? Which is something I said earlier, right? So you need to know, we want to know everything about your customers, right? That's sort of our philosophy is knowing everything about your customers. So it's very common for people who use my platform. We're CRM systems. They're constantly giving us all the data about their customers. If we're an e-commerce platform, we may have orders and shipping information and delivery exceptions, and you name it, right? And you may have things like, we sent you this marketing campaign or this coupon or what have you, right? We have just immense amount of CRM data that companies often provide to create those really, really rich experiences to properly understand the customer. And when you do, you're able to have those rich support experiences, right? You're even able to do forms of proactive support, right? You might be able to say to all customers who ordered this shirt in the last 60 days, like, oh, we realized that the machine we used to sew was really bad and your buttons are going to pop off. So like, we're super fair. Here's a coupon to get a new one, right? But people do things like that on our platform because they know all the people who bought this shirt, as an example, and then they can proactively reach out. So there's so much you can do by understanding your customers. And that is just a critical part of that journey and a part of that experience in our mind, because you can round it out. And then we also really do think that, by leveraging what we call conversational CRM or conversational customer service, it's really about connecting the moment you need to understand the context for that customer, right? So real-time context makes for the rich journey, right? Makes for that rich experience. And it's not something everybody does. It's not something people do very well actually today. And we've all had those, subpar support experiences. We all had them where, you give some information about yourself. You're like, man, you should have had that just by my phone number. And then, pass you off to somebody else after you just told them the first problem. You're like, I just told somebody that problem. And like, we've all had those experiences, right? We have them probably more often than not, but those can be fixed, right? Computers, software, right? The right tooling can fix those problems, can enhance those relationships and create those proper experiences and journeys. So, for me, it's knowing about the customers, having that rich profile, having that rich data set for that to your customer base and provide those optimal experiences.
So Brad, I have to say, you've given a couple examples now about bad shirt experiences. You must have had some in your recent past.
I'm not very creative. Usually I use the shirt or the mug. I got whatever I can touch in front of me that's it. I could use my phone as that, but like, it's just whatever I can hold up. But yeah, no.
All right, I won't ask where you buy your shirts then, because I'm sure it's a good brand.
I'm happy with my shirt. How's that?
All right. So we've talked about several current trends in customer experience, but let's talk right now about a few forward-facing use cases. Omar, I'm going to turn to you first. Thinking about remote work, we talked about today's environment. Contact center agents historically, have sat in exactly centers, right? But we find today that a lot of them are working from home, and they're changing their technology. Some of them may stay at home, if they're finding productivity here. But what's kind of your view of how that's changing their technology to kind of adapt to that mobile workforce?
Yeah, I mean, it's changing in a huge way. I mean, I did a video interview of one of the partners we work with at Sprint, and they were talking about a case where they took all the Sprint employees who were working in the stores, and at a time when they had to close down those stores, what they would do is allow them to work out of the store but take calls that would have gone to a contact center, because at the same time they had to shift all these contact center agents home. And we had to work with a bunch of these carriers to move 10, 15,000 agents to home right away, and that shift was kind of jarring for folks, but it happened. The next trend we're starting to see is that you might walk into an airport terminal, a hotel, a rental car agency, and instead of seeing a person there, you're going to see a very large screen, and as you walk up to the screen, someone's going to show up on the other end in video, and it'll be a human-to-human interaction over video. So that opens up the whole model that would have been classic retail interactions to blend with the contact center. So that's a trend I find really intriguing. It allows you to tap into your best talent anywhere in the world for you to be able to do what would have been in-person interactions. And it starts to make you ask the question, how could I make that video interaction that's remote actually better than an in-person interaction? Your first reaction is, okay, Omar, you're smoking weed or something. Like, it's not going to be better. We all want to hang out in person. Yes, there are aspects in person that are better for sure. But there are things that you can do digitally over video that you can't do. Right now, I'm speaking to Donald. His name label is up there because of face recognition. And if I had forgotten, I'd never forget you, Donald, but if I had forgotten, I can now be reminded, right? You can have transcription, intent detection, you have all these interesting things that you get over video interactions you don't get in person. So that blending of the retail experience with contact center is important. The second blending is the one where, you know, we stopped calling it a call center years ago because we saw so many interactions coming through that are not calls. And those other interactions are asynchronous, so they're different. And we basically had the insight that nobody calls or messages to complain about your contact center. They're complaining about something else that went wrong somewhere else in the journey. And so what we did is about a year ago, we acquired a company called CloudCherry that helped us map the full journey and always see an interaction coming with the contact center as a piece of information about something in the journey that needs to be improved. So you can think more holistically at the journey level. So I see these two trends as really interesting and transforming how we think about doing our jobs here.
Got it. No, that's it is an interesting thought, you know, where you go into a retail environment and you're no longer interfacing with that human face to face, and certainly have seen a couple of those. And you know, that's talk about social distancing, right? That's the new safe interaction mode, at least here today. So I think to your point, it can be a better experience maybe than even in person. And so it sounds like we're taking strides to deliver that. Tasso, I'm going to turn to you about forward-facing use cases. You know, we've talked a lot about customer data platform, CDPs, you know, almost as if they are already being embedded in contact centers. This is really, you know, historically, they've sat more in marketing, thinking about segmenting and reaching out to customers more on that end. What do you see for the merge of these two worlds coming together more over the next couple of years? Do you believe that's going to be a trend that really takes hold? And Tasso, you might be on mute again.
Yep, I was. Thank you, Donald. But I think absolutely. So, you know, the funny thing is sometimes when, and you didn't do this, Donald, but sometimes when people introduce ActionIQ, they say, oh, ActionIQ is a MarTech company. I'm like, not really. We're not. I mean, marketing is part of it, but if you think of customer data as a marketing asset, you're completely screwing your customer experience, right? And if you think about it from the call center perspective, if you are if you own a contact center, right? If you're a key person in a contact center operation, you should want not only to bring more data in, that obviously is going to improve your job, but you want marketing to use your data as well, right? You want other functions to be using the contact center data. That makes you more valuable. It gives you more power. It drives better outcomes for you because now the other functions are not screwing up what you're trying to fix even further, right? So Omar just said, you know, he put in a great way. Nobody calls the contact center to complain about the contact center, right? They call because some other function screwed up. So you want that information to go to that other function so that that other function, right, can give you the space with the customer, can help you to fix the problem. So in some ways, what's interesting about customer data platforms is it's really more of an enterprise customer-centric concept, right? So the CDP has to bring more data to you, but it also has to take more data from you, right, from the contact center and move it to every other function. So from that perspective, right, it's not a marketing thing, it's not a contact center thing, it's a customer thing. And if it's a customer thing, it has to connect to everything. So that being said, right, marketing traditionally had the aptitude and the budget, right? I mean, if you think about personalization, that was a marketing concept, or there should be a concept for everything, right? I mean, Brad was talking about how AI helps with that. Personalization is everywhere, right? Just like customer data is everywhere, personalization should be everywhere. So I think that, you know, it's customer data platform is a customer-centric concept. It includes both bringing data in and getting data out. And it should help with personalizing not just the call center, but across every touch point with the customer.
Perfect. And so if you had a crystal ball, do you think this is do you think contact centers start adopting this in the next year, 2 years, or do you think this is a farther out trend?
No, I think it's definitely starting. So what we've seen is, so marketing started, right, and then we saw a lot of services functions adopting it, right. For example, travel, hospitality, the people that do the physical interaction with the customers adopting it, and now we have more and more and more interest from folks that involve the contact center. The other thing that has been happening also, Donald, is that we also see the emergence of different roles within enterprises, like chief customer officers, right? Or
Mhm.
people that own the customer experience. And those folks, just like we do, right, are not thinking channel first, they're thinking customer first. But I think the opportunity for contact center to drive that, right, to say, hey, we're trying to fix our customers' problems, so we need everybody's cooperation. And the only way to do this is with integrated data. I think that's a huge opportunity, right? And the people that do it first on the contact center side, they will give them the opportunity. I mean, they'll be superheroes, right? Because it's coming fast, and the time is now to do it.
Perfect. Well, Tasso, I'm gonna keep you here on the mic. Let's do a quick rapid fire here. Some of the things that I've heard you guys talk about. So you've mentioned personalization at scale when you talk about ActionIQ, and it's something that your team's talked about a lot. What is that? What is personalization at scale?
Yeah. So let me tell you what it isn't. What it isn't is to put something on the website that says people that bought this bought that, right? I mean, that's great, but it doesn't really help anybody. If you really want to have a personalized experience, that's probably 200 projects, right, across all kinds of different channels that need to happen. So if you're gonna spend 2 years and millions of dollars to add the if you bought this then buy that thing, that's great, right? You did one use case out of 200, you're at 0.5% and you're 2 years in, and 1 million less in the bank. So how do you get from 0 to 200 very, very quickly? That's what we mean when we say personalization at scale. So our goal is to take the time it takes to deploy a new piece of personalized experience from months to years, take it down to days to weeks. That's what ActionIQ enables you to do, because all the data is going to be there, all the interactions, the channels are going to be connected, and then you have a user interface that allow you to do rapid deployment and rapid testing. So this way you can hope to get to personalization scale within months to a year versus a decade, right? Which nobody has a decade here. So you really need to think about personalization as a multifaceted scale function.
Yeah, and that sounds like a value proposition that any customer-facing organization would want. So that's exciting to hear. Brad, over to you on the rapid fire. So what does it mean to be truly provide omni-channel customer experience? And that's something that you guys talk a lot about and we've talked about here today. But what does that truly mean?
Sure, sure. And the rapid fire answer, the fast answer, to me, it's quite simple. It's the ability to conduct a conversation around a topic where you can converse with your customers in all of the channels you support seamlessly, right? You need to be able to switch conversations mid-channel. You need to be able to leverage the best channel for the purpose at that time, and context switch at will. And it sounds so obvious and it sounds so easy, but so shockingly, not many people actually do it, right?
Yep.
I actually do think we do ourselves a disservice by calling it omnichannel, because everybody calls it omnichannel, but to me, that's real omnichannel, right? Like proper omnichannel, all channels around a conversation.
Yep. And that makes a lot of sense. And, I think I appreciate, you talk about switching channels or, being able to go over different channels. In the work from home world, everybody's multitasking more. We've got kids at home, you've got, your doorbell ringing for your grocery delivery, whatever that is. You don't want to, lose that customer engagement that you're experience that you're in, and maybe you need to change the channel, right? You need to switch to a phone call versus a text message or something else. So, all the more relevant today.
Yeah.
Omar, over to you. So, talking about working from home, how do you think the labor model is going to change for the contact centers now that people can work from home? I think you mentioned earlier, people being able to pull the best talent now that you have a lot more flexibility. But love to kind of hear your vision and how you think that the market's going to evolve here.
Yeah, so I think there's two ways the labor model changes. So first one, back to that example of someone walking up to a rental car. area. And step back and remember, how is it that Amazon took on Barnes & Noble early in the day? You walk into a Barnes & Noble store, there's only a certain amount of books you can put there, where Amazon said, wait a minute, because I don't have to feed all these physical locations, I could keep like millions of titles, and then I'm going to use data to figure out the one that comes to you. Okay, now think about it. All over the world, there were these, rental car places, and in one particular rental car physical location, all these people are waiting in line, and then hundreds of other locations are kind of like, really only at 25% utility. So if you move to a model where you had video terminals at each of this, if all of a sudden there was a surge of people coming in, you could serve them much more quickly by having a distributed workforce able and in demand. I think that model is just mathematically going to win, because you could use now a distributed force, you could use the right talent matched to the right person, you can use data to solve the problem, you can use bots to help do the first part of the interaction automatically. This is going to change, just like Amazon took on Barnes & Noble. Whoever adopts this type of labor, flexibility, and optimization is just going to crush it, and they're going to win. So that's number one. Number two is, could we see something like an Uber-like model for staffing when you have surges in a contact center? And there are a couple of companies experimenting with this model right now. It requires new systems, new types of training, but I think you'll start to see some of that labor model start to impact the contact center also.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, everybody likes to think about the Uber of this and the Uber of that. So, Uber's coming to contact center labor is a really interesting concept. So to wrap up our conversation, and again, please feel free if you have Q&A to lob it in here. But maybe to wrap it up, what's one key takeaway that you would want to emphasize to our audience today of everything we talked about? Because we've gone through a lot of things. We've talked about personalization. We've talked about omnichannel. We've talked about how the contact center labor is changing as we just did. But what's that one takeaway? Tasso, over to you.
I think there's a lot that were discussed today, and they were all great. If I had to say one thing, I would say you may be part of the contact center, but you're really you're part of the customer experience, and don't think how the customer experience can help the contact center, but think how the contact center and its data that it generates and the information it has can help every other function of your business, because there's a lot of unmet opportunity hiding there.
Yeah, and I think that's great and very empowering to the folks that do work in contact centers. You're really part of that customer experience, and you can really impact how your brand and your company does by providing that top-notch experience. Brad, what would be your one key takeaway?
Sure. So I would say, if the pandemic has taught us one thing, it's that we can adjust and flourish. One of the most important lessons to take away from the brutal start to 2020 is to never stop innovating to be more customer-centric. When you focus on your customers, your businesses will grow, right? We are seeing that. We are seeing that people are adjusting. We are seeing that people's focus on their customers and innovating around it is really allowing them to continue to flourish despite the pandemic that we're in the middle of. So I would say, have at it, adjust, move quickly, be customer-centric. That's
yeah, never lose sight of that customer. That's great advice.
No.
Omar, you're going to bring us home here. So what's the one takeaway that you want to emphasize?
Yeah, my one takeaway is that the tsunami that flips how people communicate with businesses is about to hit you. And that is that what was synchronous may go asynchronous. So people want to message with you in all forms of that. What was a phone call will go two ways. One of it will be just messaging, and the other way will be video. So that transformation is already happening. It's live. The preferences are there for the 15-year-olds. That tsunami is gonna flow through your business. You have to be prepared for it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I think we're just out of time here. So really appreciate everyone joining us today for this session, and want to thank our panelists, Omar, Tasso, and Brad. So thank you so much, and look forward to chatting with you guys again in the future.